and welcome to a great conversation I'm excited about. This is what I'm calling In the Beginning, and it's a conversation with Beth Nelson, who was one of our very first employed individuals here at Gilda's Club. Let me introduce myself as well. I'm Wendy Wigger. I serve as CEO and president for Gilda's Club Grand Rapids. And I have been looking forward to this all morning, all week, Beth, because you are a part of the foundation for Gilda's Club. You have walking encyclopedia of knowledge of everything we've been and done and how we are almost 20 years later. So thank you for joining in on this conversation.
Well, I'm glad to be here. At first, I thought you were going to say I was a relic, which...
You're a treasure.
Oh, thank you. I'll go with that.
Oh, well, you know, Beth, we formally opened our doors. It'll be 20 years from this coming Monday, February 15. And we got some special events happening on the 15th. We'll talk about that later. But on February 15 of 2001 was the first official day that we opened to the full public. But I understand that you were involved even before that. And there were some things that were called soft openings and such. But, you know, when and how did you get started with Gilda's Club?
Well, I actually started about 6 months before the official opening, and I spent my first 2 weeks in New York City training with the Gilda's Club there, and actually working with Joanna Bull, who was the founder of Gilda's Club. So that was very exciting. And when we moved into the clubhouse, it was not finished. There were 3 of us, and we went in and moved in the basement.
And there we reside, for those that know where our offices are.
This is true. Mm-hmm.
But you were, so it was even before the clubhouse was open, you were, the clubhouse was still in transformation. And Joanna Bull, who was the starter, but she was also Gilda Radner's cancer therapist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she was her psychotherapist and a very good friend of both Gilda and then her husband, Gene Wilder, who also helped found Gilda's Club in Gilda's memory.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you were involved starting back in June?
June, yeah. June 1 was my first day. And we did have a soft opening in November. And that was, so we could figure out whether to put the horse or the cart first. So we decided we wanted to know how we wanted to set the program up. And so we just did a soft opening, kind of quiet, and then officially opened in February of the next year.
So was the clubhouse still under construction at that time?
Very much so. A lot of the construction people were still there. And there's lots of really fun memories about that. One thing that I learned about the clubhouse and the program during that time was that the environment of the clubhouse is just as important as the program, to helping people come there and feel like this is a safe place for them to be. So the clubhouse was constructed to fit the program. And it was a really exciting time with so many people still working there in the building, out in the gardens, who were doing so much of it out of the generosity of their hearts. Especially when they would find out the mission, the construction people would say, well, I'll come tonight and finish that up for you. We had a lot of that happening. And the starting board, along with the first director, Leanne Arkema, they were very perceptive in, we need to have this building and this environment fit the program. So they looked ahead to building a large community room, so that there would be room for large workshops and lectures, and to having beautiful furniture, and to make everyone feel warm and welcoming when they came in, and to have a place in a lovely kitchen where coffee's brewing and snacks are there. So it was all very intentional, the way the clubhouse was put together. there was a time before we opened, one of my favorite memories is when we had a stud signing. And that was,
Now you got to explain.
yeah, we had, and that was open to the public. And it was before the drywalls were put up inside the building. And we had a time that people could come over, and the guys cleaned everything up and they got out all the hard hats and helped us to give people tours of the building. But the most important part of that was people had a chance to sign the studs and write messages to people who had been diagnosed with cancer, cancer survivors, maybe people who had died in their lives. And those are all still encased in our walls and
Amazing.
will be there as long as the building stands. And it was just like a beautiful day. Many people came and got their first glimpse of the clubhouse, and then were able to leave their messages there forever.
You know, the way you describe it is, it speaks so much to what we try to create as a community, that it sounds like there was just a huge community engagement. We're gonna have a conversation on Monday with, on the 15th, with a couple of our founders. And they speak about the engagement of the community, but then it also took folks like Leanne, yourself, and others that really helped to pull those, you know, pieces together. But there was a construction team, there were people volunteering in the grounds. There seems like there was just automatically a part of what we wanted to create was a community of support. It felt like that was just intentional right from the start.
It sure was. And we relied then, as we do now, so much on our volunteers. So many of the people there were volunteering their time, whether it was, excuse me, helping to set up the gardens, set up the clubhouse. When we started to move in, helping us move in, move the furniture in, put the dishes away in the kitchen, you know, just everything that makes that clubhouse feel like a home. Sometimes people will say, this is like my second home, this is where I want to be in. That was definitely the environment that we wanted to create. We wanted people to be able to walk in there and feel safe, like this is someplace I can talk about what's happening in my life, and I can do it feeling safe and comfortable. And it was just, you know, it was so important. The clubhouse and its construction was such an important time. And it was, you know, just, it was a pleasure to be able to see that all come together.
Yeah, I know you're making me miss physically being there, because as many people know right now, our program continues, but we're all virtual at this time. But there will be a day when we will physically be reopened. But I know when I've done tours with groups through the clubhouse, or meeting somebody for the first time, often one of the things I hear most often is, it's not what I thought it was going to be. And I will often say, well, what were you imagining Gilda's Club might be? I'm not sure, but it's not what I thought it would be. And they will often reference that it's the warm and the welcoming, and knowing that we deal with the heaviness at times of cancer and grief. There's also a lightness that occurs because of the community of support, and making people feel warm and welcomed. And what you're describing, it sounds to me like there was a lot of intention that went into all of those elements before you even had the practice groups that you started with.
Yeah, it was definitely like that. I mean, we even worked on ourselves. At the minute someone walks in the door, we look at them and welcome them. And initially we had this great volunteer who could remember everyone's name. That's pretty much impossible now, but she was, they would say, walk in and she'd say, hi, Tom, how are you today? Nothing makes you feel more like walking in than a greeting like that. And it's still very concerted effort for us to do that, and to be, you know, good role models as staff also for that warm and welcoming environment.
Yeah, you had to have, you mentioned a soft opening. And so there were certain steps that took place before that March 15 of 2001, when we basically said, okay, community, come on in. What were some of the things that happened before we were more visibly open to the community at large?
Well, we had what we called a soft opening in November. And what we wanted to do was to, expose the public to what our program was about. So we put together a small program for that for 2 weeks that had samples of everything that we plan to be doing, lectures and workshops, groups and social events. And we actually had been getting a lot of calls up to that time from people because we were in the news quite a bit during that time. And we had people saying, when can I come? When is this going to start? So we gathered all those names and we kept track of them. And we said, the minute we're going to open, we'll call you. So that's what we did. And early in November, we did our first new member meeting. And it was, it was really funny. The community room wasn't done. The upstairs weren't done, but we were ready to start to acclimate people to who we were and to get them set. So Claire, another one of our social workers who had been hired, we took push brooms and we pushed the sawdust aside in the community room and we put chairs. And that's when we had about a 15-member new member meeting.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it was like such a thrill that to have that, actually see that come to fruition and to see that happening.
Amazing. The one thing I know that really made Gilda's Club unique from the moment it opened was that we served a meal every night that we were open. What was that all about?
Well, we started to do that, excuse me, a few months into after we opened. What we wanted was we wanted to make it as easy as possible to come in the evening. We wanted to focus on perhaps families who had children who would be coming. And so we wanted to make it easy for them to just come from work and not have to worry about dinner that evening. So we had so many amazing volunteers who helped us start to serve meals. And we've been able to do that ever since, well, until COVID found its way. So, and it also became a social time for them. They would come into a meal, all eat together in the community room, and everybody would just, have social time together before they went into their groups. And there's not much more that relaxes people than eating together rather than just coming in and going into a group. So, in fact, we first started it with a lunch that was called Talking with Your Mouth Full. That's how they originally started that before we were open in the evening. So we did those like once a week of Talking with Your Mouth Full, where we wanted people to come enjoy lunch and just be together.
Yeah. I think I've embraced that philosophy quite well. I'm lost all my manners since I started at Gilda's Club. It's like, it's normal to talk with your mouth full.
Yeah, it's the place to do it.
It is. Well, and I think that really speaks volumes to, as we say to people, come as you are. I mean, it's a judgment-free zone. It's an embracing zone. It's a place where we want people to feel warm and welcomed, and wherever they are in their journey. If they're directly impacted by cancer or grief or indirectly. And I think that was so purposeful and speaks volumes to what, those in the beginning, Leanne, yourself, Claire, you and Claire both still involved in the program 20 years later.
Yeah.
I think that means so much. And I think the other thing is that I know you're very instrumental as well with some of the workshop facilitators that were there from the very start. There's some people that have been very instrumental. You mentioned like the gardens, John Sutherland, who we now have a beautiful endowment that helps us to continue to support our grounds and such. He was involved in the gardening. We had Pat Klein, who was involved with all of the arts, and Dorothy Munson with everyone's favorite chocolate oh my goodness, it's been a while.
Chocolate Factory. Yeah.
The Chocolate Factory. Yeah. Thank you. What was it like did people just come forward and say, I want to volunteer, or did you have to really look out for folks?
People really came forward. By the time I started, a lot of those volunteers were already doing a lot of different things, around the clubhouse and helping with the planning. Now, Dorothy Munson, you mentioned, she did a chocolate workshop the first month and has done them ever since and is still doing that. Our volunteers, I think so many people have cancer involved in their lives that
Mhm.
they want, that they know, everyone knows someone. And so people want to come and be able to give back and to, get to know our organization so they can recommend that people come to us. And it's just been amazing how our volunteers, I don't know if it's true, but the first few years we used to say that our volunteers do about 80% of our labor. And a lot of that's really included in the program too, as our social workers and our medical and our emotional support professionals, we do the groups, and yeah, our workshops are done all by volunteers. And that's even continued on through our virtual program that we have people coming on. I know that Dorothy was one of the first ones, Pat Klein doing art workshops. And we have a lot of those still happening. And we still heavily rely on our volunteers. John Sutherland, who, designed the garden. I will tell you the first 6 months, it was mud garden. And I remember we had a thank you for all the construction people, and it was raining when they came. So we made them take their shoes all off at the door because we had brand new carpet and there was not one hole in any pair of socks. That was a fun day. And John, he really helped design the garden and put it together. And we need and use so many of our volunteers in that garden to give it the beauty and the lovely atmosphere that it offers to our members who just might want to walk around out there or meditate on the labyrinth or look at the waterfall. So much out there when
It's
when it's
beautiful.
not covered with snow.
Yeah, this is true. And even now, if you wanted to drive through, it's beautiful with the snow. There's a seasonality to the clubhouse that it has its own look and feel every season, and it's just beautiful. I think we can't say thank you enough to the general volunteers, the talent of workshop volunteers, the people that come and do presentations and such. It's, as you said, they are so instrumental to what it is that we do in our in this together, learn, share, laugh message that we have. Beth, I know with the many wonderful years that you've been with the organization. I know you started when you were about 14. So,
That's right. Mhm.
and with all those beautiful years, you've had a lot of memories and personal stories. And I wondered if you might share a few. I know you and I talked about a few before, but just for the listening audience that we have here, can you treat us with a couple of your own stories?
Yeah, I have lots of stories and memories. Um, a lot of them are about our members and who found such comfort in Gilda's Club just being there. One of our members, before she was going to have surgery, she said she came the night before and just sat in our parking lot because she knew if she needed us that we would be there for her. And there are so many great member stories about people coming and driving around the driveway because they were nervous to come in, and then coming in and getting, so much love from the other people that attend there, and having a place to really talk about what's going on with them. One of the first memories I have of the clubhouse opening was when we did have our grand opening. Michael Radner
Yeah.
came, and he Gilda's brother, and he's always been supportive of us. And he walked in there the first time, and he looked around like this, and he spun around and he went, "Holy blankety blank." He was so impressed with the building and what we had put together, because we are one of the biggest buildings and most beautiful. And it was just so fun to see how happy it made him, because these have been huge projects for him to continue Gilda's memory and the developed philosophy that he also helped with.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Michael's going to actually be on the radio with us on Monday of next week with Town Square Media. So anybody that wants to hear a little bit of his story, you might catch him around 8:30.
Oh, great. He's got great stories.
Yeah.
Wonderful sense of humor.
He talked to me once. He said, Gilda went out to find her fame and fortune. And I was, after that, I thought if I left the east side of Michigan, what if it came looking for me and I wasn't here?
Yeah, he's got a wonderful sense of humor.
Well, Beth, I know there's other stories, and I know we're going to have to kind of bring some wrapping up here. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, or any other story? One more story or
Yeah,
so?
I have one quick one that for me was such a thrill. It was when after Laugh Fest started, and Betty White had come to one. I don't know if it was the first or second Laugh Fest, one of the Laugh Fests she participated in. And she so lovingly came and visited the clubhouse and took a tour of it. And I was privileged enough to be able to be walking with her on our second floor through our breezeway. And you can look out over our 6 acres of land. And she said, you know, this reminds me of my first country home that I had with Alan. And she said, and we were so happy there. And of course, she was talking about Alan Ludden, her only husband. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this has made an impression. And it was so beautiful to hear that. It was such a thrill to have that come from such a lovely, lovely person.
Yeah.
So that really stays in my mind.
Yeah, she's one of those people that you just want to say, oh, please be everything I hope you would be. And she was and more.
Yes, she absolutely was.
And I believe Alan, her husband, had died of a cancer diagnosis.
Yes, he had. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could just see that she still, was really reminiscing about that time.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That you are just a plethora of wonderful stories and memories, and I wish we could go on, and I know if we had unlimited time we could.
Yeah.
And probably some stories we shouldn't tell either, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I just want to personally thank you for, all that you've given to the organization and being so instrumental from the very start. And even when you tried to retire, we didn't let you fully retire. So thank you for this conversation and being part of our wonderful team that we have that's part of Gilda's Club.
Well, thank you. Being part of Gilda's all these years and still has just really made my life what it is. It's just been such an honor to work with people who come together to support each other and to see the relationships that form and how they can support one another. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I want to thank everybody that tuned in. And I want you to know that this has been recorded. We'll be posting it on our website at gildasclubgr.org. So you can watch it again and again and again. And I also want to let you know on Monday, we've got 3 drop-in events on Monday, February 15th. And it is going to be fantastic. We've got one at 10 that is going to again be about our program, one at noon with our founders, both Twink Fry and Susan Smith, and then Denise Thorne, who is Deb Bailey's sister. And then we have one at 4 for people that have supported Gilda's Club on how to get involved and engaged. And we'll hope that you'll take a part in one of those activities as well. 20 minutes on our 20th anniversary. We're going to celebrate all year long. So thanks again, Beth. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And we invite you to come and visit us on our website for now. And at some point, we'll reopen physically as well. Thank you.